better. Still awkward, but better. Hi. I'm hiding from a sleeping baby. All the kids are down, and my husband is threatening to sleep. Like, it is 8:30. Perfect. Yay. So, sorry. We didn't have time for foam rolling tonight. We had to go celebrate. Actually, that's not entirely true. We forgot we had a sitter. And the sitter showed up and we were like, I guess we better go out. So we went and had some dinner, and on our way out the door I realized that the fundraising total now for all my old Another Mother Runner plans has reached $10,000. And that is effing crazy. It had reached $9,200, and I posted that on Facebook. And then by the time dinner was done and we came home, put the kids to bed, it's like 500 more, 150 more, 50 more. We're at 10,000 even now. And I am humbled and grateful and just like, whoa. Whoa. $10,000, you guys. $10,000. That's insane. I love it. I appreciate it. I'm just like, wow. So, $10,000 so far for between Project Semicolon and the Blue Bench. Right now, it's looking like 6,000 to Project Semicolon and 4,000 to the Blue Bench, which again is just lovely and incredible and wonderful. And I'm really kind of speechless, to be honest with you. Totally speechless. But luckily I'm not here to make a speech. I am here to talk to my 3 days at the fair people about the Christmas present they have coming. And though this looks like a really awkward sex toy, and you should tell people it is, because I have one and I carry it in my purse all the time. And if somebody's like, what is that? Chances are pretty good they got it in my purse and they don't need to do that. So, I'm like, fuck yeah, it's a sex toy. Why are you touching it? I know it's greasy. Why are you touching it? That's awesome. I don't like to be bothered very much. I'm a so party animal. So this is how I recommend using the therapist thumb. So if you train with me for 3 days at the fair for any time beyond 6 hours, or your name is Melissa the Burge, you're gonna get one of these from me as an early Christmas present. Yay! I know you're excited. Try to hide it. When it comes to the oil, though, this stuff doesn't ship so good. So and plus people are real picky about lubricants, understandably. So I'm not even going to try. This was an accident. I think I mentioned this in one of my Black Friday streams. I don't love lotion in general. I just don't. It's gross. And I don't like oil at all. There's only like 2 lotions I've ever used that I don't mind, and one that I like. And I own all 3, and I'm good on lotion. And this was a gift someone gave me. And I feel like I was kind of a butthead about it, so I feel like this is my penance. I have to call myself out on being a butthead. Jen Noakes Madsen gave this to me after Violet was born, along with one of the other lotions that it turns out I like. She hands me this big bag, and I know it's a girl thing. We're supposed to like bath bombs. I hate bath bombs. You can't fucking clean them off. It takes forever. I mean, it's like baking, which I also don't do. There is nothing that tastes as good to make that mess worth it. Nothing. So, anyway, so that's how I feel about that. Bath bombs, I don't ever use them, because especially if they're colored, I gotta scrub that oil out the tub, or a child is gonna get in there, hit their head, mommy, or even worse, a husband's gonna fall, hit his head and be like, okay, and I'm just like, no. So, when she gave me this, I was like, oh, thanks, yeah, this is really nice, and it sat in my bathroom for an absurdly long time, because I'm just a terrible human, and then when it got cold this winter, I pulled it out and was like, well, my hands are bleeding, my thumb is cracking. As you can see, bad things happen in the winter here when you get a little bit dehydrated. And I'm like, well, this is the time of year, I have no choice. I got to use the greasy body wash from Dove that has all the extra moisturizers in it, and it's so disgusting. But I can shower and not feel like a piece of sandpaper. So I thought I might as well use this. And I love this shit. I love this shit. Oil has come a really long way since the last time I even thought about trying it. I've never even used baby oil. I swear to God, I don't know what that shit is for. I'm like, baby oil? Oh, I don't know. So this is a cure. Thank you, Gen Notes Medicine. This is truly one of the better gifts I've ever been given that wasn't specifically something I asked for. And I'm really sorry now I let it sit around for so long because this shit's great. So it's an oil. It's a dry oil. I don't even know really what dry oil is. But it does kind of sit dryly. So on your skin, it doesn't like sit on top of your skin. Somehow your skin actually like legit drinks this up. So Julie, are you with me? Can you say hi in the chat if you're here? So if your name is Julie and you have this thumb, I need you to run out and get it and get something. You need a little something on your skin if you've just gotten out of the shower or you've had a bath already and your skin is still like a little supple and soft. That's probably fine. For what I'm about to do, I like to add just an extra, like, don't go crazy with like massage oil or Astroglide or whatever it is you people have in Utah, but said Julie, hi, yeah. So whatever it is that you use, we just want to get something nice and light, not too heavy, because we're going to be scraping a lot. So this is the therapist's thumb, and you hold it exactly like it looks like. I use one of these a lot, especially when I'm fitter than I am right now. I'm like, when I'm as fit as I was in 2016, or fitter than that. I like to have something like this around all the time because, when I'm sitting and I'm a little bored, I can probably just sit there and mindlessly, instead of picking at my fingernails or, scratching something, I can sit there and work a knot out because I probably got a knot somewhere. So the most useful part of the body, in my opinion for this, yeah, you people, you're right. I'm not here to judge. I'm just like, I just don't want to know. As outspoken as I am, as brazen as I am, I don't really actually want to know what other people do in their bedrooms. And it's not that I care. I just literally don't want to know. I don't want to like see you and think about the sex swing that you talked about in the private Facebook groups. How hard it was to hang without the kids seeing it in the closet or whatever. And I'm like, then I have to like see you and talk to you about your race, or even worse, we're out in public and I meet your husband and I'm like, sex swing in the closet, I don't want to know, and I just kind of melt. They're still like the southern, not even the Southern Belle that went to charm school. It's more like the girl that had to sit and listen to Hellfire and Damnation in church every Sunday. And sex was a huge part of the Hellfire and Damnation, let me tell you. So yeah, I don't want to know that about anybody. But somehow, when I say Astroglide, which I do have a lot of, is one of the best lubricants for runners can use when they're getting chafed, people are like, oh, of course I have some at home. And I'm like, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Oh, God. I've never used it for that before. I don't want to know why you have Astroglide in your home and what you use it for. I don't want to know. Kills me. Anyway, so I'm going to hope that you have some sort of oil at home that you can use. Like, Astroglide's probably a little too much lubricant. It's probably a little too thick. It was designed to prevent friction. All this, we want something that was designed to go into your skin and be absorbed. I like to take the thumb and start here. Now, when I talk about nerves, there's a whole mess of nerves in here. It's easy to get this wrong, but it's a lot harder to get it wrong with the therapist thumb than it is with a lacrosse ball. So if you watch Mobility WOD, and I'm a huge fan of Mobility WOD and Kelly Starrett, but you got to remember, his demographic is not usually my people. My people are primarily runners. People that want to run to lose weight, that want to run for fitness, for cardio health, because their doctor said, hey, you need to get on a diet and exercise plan, and running is the low-hanging fruit. I don't usually get people coming to me off the bat with large amounts of muscle mass. I'm not opposed to it, I just don't. Mobility WOD, when they talk about all the mobility that they do with, lacrosse balls and pressing them into their knees and pressing it into the ground this way and pressing it into the ground that way, they're usually, the nerves that we're concerned about are covered by really big, bulging, ropey, hard muscles. And again, I say that with love. Most people that train with me aren't at that level of musculature yet. Therefore, a little bit of mobility could accidentally hit a nerve, and accidentally hitting a nerve can do legit long-term damage, which we'd rather avoid. Oh my God, that's funny. I just don't want to know what happened to the Astroglide after you got it home, or why you decided to purchase it. If it makes its way into the cart, that's cool, but like beyond that, I'm like, la 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 la, don't want to know. Anyway, so what we're about to do with the therapist then, this is similar to, not to take this somewhere totally morbid, but I've talked before about the stick, and there are pain receptors in your brain that are there to protect your body, and literally to protect your life. So one of the reasons why like cutting your wrists is very rarely an effective form of suicide, it's because, again, those pain receptors in your brain know that you're doing something, and it's almost impossible. I mean, you really gotta like have a serious death wish to cut so deeply just to do permanent damage and bleed out from your wrists, okay? So in the same vein, anything with those pain receptors there at your body, you're not going to be able to go in hard enough to really mobilize effectively. With something like a lacrosse ball, where that's bigger, you're going to accidentally roll over something and do something you didn't intend to do. It's a lot harder to do with this. We can go pretty deep, but those warning bells, those pain receptors are going to kick in before we do something stupid. So you'll know when you're hitting a nerve because it starts off as a burn and then sears. I mean, it goes from like awareness to almost like sticking your finger in an electric socket, which is another thing I don't recommend doing. But my 3-year-old is determined to try. So whatever. If you notice right here, go just on the inside of your ankle bone, there's like a little mess of cartilage. We want to start right above that little mess of cartilage and just slowly scrape. And when I say slowly, I mean really patiently. And it's going to feel crunchy. That's okay, that's normal. And just go in like a little 2-inch area, up around, get close to the bone but not on the bone. Just get to know that area. This is one of the more important parts of your shin that we're in right now. This is where so I've said before, your phalanges here, your toes, all of them are connected to tendons and ligaments that attach into your ankle and then up into your knee. So that's one of the reasons why when we talk about pelvic floor dysfunction actually causes plantar fasciitis. Again, it's a closed system, it's a chain, and it's all connected. So and we start by mobilizing it right here, because this is like the bottleneck in your leg where all of those things come together, and then they spread out as we go further up. So just up and down, back and forth. I mean, you could do this with the stick, but if you think about, like, again, how big and awkward the stick is, you're just not going to get as deep as you will with this. So, and plus it's got rollers. This is effectively, we're scraping with the side of the thumb. So you can see I've stayed in a really narrow range. This is not ART, this is not Graston, this is no specific technique. It's just something I've learned how to do over time. Whenever you feel that crunchiness, that's a sign that you probably need a little bit more of what you're doing. Now you can do this whenever you start to feel a little bit of heel pain coming on. You can do this whenever you feel like, maybe I need new shoes. When plantar fasciitis starts to present, with soreness in the sole of your feet, which we're going to get to, the first question I ask myself is, well, how mobile is this area? And then the next question is, well, how are my hips doing? I know my hips are good now in a way they never have been before, because I'm doing 8 hours of Pilates per week, and will be for the rest of my life. But between that and all the loops and the demonstrations, even though I've been a little slack on it, it's been a hella stressful week in the Fleming household. My son has his final examination tomorrow before the negotiations start with the school district and his teachers potentially for next year. So we're all kind of like, we just gotta slide through this week. They ski on Sunday, Monday life won't be, it's not just never going to be normal again, it's just going to be a new normal. But at least the tension and the stress of waiting for all the data gathering and all the paperwork, that will be over, and now we go into like face-to-face negotiations mode. So I haven't been as great this week about doing strength, but I do a whole lot of strength for my booty and my hips, specifically with a loop. So again, the first question is, how are my hips? And then, how are my shins? And if I sit and I ground and I feel that crunch, I'm like, oh, yay, feel that crunchiness? Yeah, that's why my feet hurt. The soles of my feet hurt. And then the third thing is, what condition are your shoes in? Which I don't go through shoes very quickly because I have so many and I rotate through them so frequently. But that's a different story. When you kind of get to the point where you're like, I wonder if I'm starting to bruise a little bit, that's a good stopping point for that area. Then I like to hold it like this, changing the grip a little bit, because now the further up we go, we're getting into a much bigger muscle with the belly. So when you have a muscle, you've got to, if you think of elongated muscles like the ones that are in our shin, you've got, it narrows at the top, it narrows at the bottom, and it gets real fat in the middle. That fat part in the middle, we can go a little deeper with this, and we want to. None of these down here, there's all so little. It's like your hamstrings. Your hamstrings don't have a belly. I mean, yes, they do, but you don't need to get in there trying to find it. Nothing good is going to come from that, right? So any big muscles, we can go find the belly of the muscle in a big muscle group. In a small muscle, we don't need to try it. Here we go as we enter the big muscle, making sure that we don't hit the bones just because that's going to hurt and bruise. You can scrape up this way too, and you'll feel little knots. And those knots are kind of tiny. And the first time you do this, you're going to come out with bruises. Just understand, like, you're not necessarily a peach. It doesn't mean you're weak, but you're going to look like a peach that got beat up at the supermarket. And that's okay too. If it feels like something is tearing in there, that's possible. It could be. Don't press that much harder, just walk away from it. So like right in here, I feel a little bit of a burn. I'm like, not worth it. Because again, there are nerves in here. Nothing needs to be mobilized so badly that we need to mess with the nerve while we do it. So avoid anything that's too overtly sore, but just kind of like gently work your way in and up. And this is again something I do in the evening when I don't have a newborn baby. And I'm in a training cycle and I'm sort of mindlessly watching TV. I'll do it when I'm in the bathtub, even though I hate baths and I think that's gross. Like, you're literally soaking in your own filth. First I take a shower and rinse off real good, then I sit and soak in a bath, because that's, Japan gets that right. It's the one. There isn't much good I have to say about my years of living in Tokyo, other than I really learned how to appreciate a bath. You get yourself clean first. It is possible to have a bath that isn't totally fucking nasty. Yay, Japan! But before that, I really hated baths. I never saw the point. So work your way up through. Notice we're staying in the center. We're not working our way into the side yet. The reason we want to do the center first is that when you're mobilizing the belly of the muscle, that relaxes the entirety of the muscle. So first we want to relax it this direction and see how much is impacted out here before we go digging. And again, you could do this with a lacrosse ball, but then the position you'd have to be in, the amount of weight, the amount of pressure you'd be putting on top of it, bad things could happen. This is not a must-buy for everyone, but this is probably one of the better purchases I've made. It was like, I don't know, $14, $24, something ridiculous. Not a whole lot of money. Enough that like I know where that money went, especially because it's in my purse all the time. So yeah, you'll notice that yeah, we still do the things we do with shins will not be decreasing over time. Sorry, shins are that important. Once you're kind of satisfied that you're like, I've done all I think I want to do with this big shin muscle, Then we start again, gently staying, as you'll notice here, right above your ankle, this is all bony. You don't want to scrape on top of the bone. You want to come just inside. You can do this on the back side. That feels really nice. It's not totally necessary. It doesn't do a whole lot. It's going to be more important if you do it over here. So stay, first we did this 2-inch area in the front. I used to do something like this with this smooth rocking coconut oil. So, yeah, well, you're getting one of these tools, Susan. Yay! Everyone doing 3 days at the fair is getting one of these in the mail from me. Don't forget to send me your address. So we're going to scrape inside. See that little edge of the thumb? I like to use that as a guide. So I put my thumb there when I'm doing it. And think that anything that's bony needs to be well on this side of the thumb because the pressure is coming on this side. Here you go a little, we can be a little more generous with some slightly larger scrapes as we get into the side. But again, don't go digging around. Right here where the muscle disappears a little bit, for lack of a better term, because you've got your bone and then muscle on top of it, and it starts to feel like it's disappearing. Like if you were to pull the calf muscle off, that's where the calf muscle starts. You don't want to go digging around in there because that's where the nerves are, and this is where the permanent damage can come from. So we scrape up in here. Don't go crazy with the pressure, and don't go like dig in too deeply. You have trigger points here on the side. It's the part in the foam rolling video where I said it should feel like you can play it like a banjo, where you roll it back and forth and you can feel all those little fibers. So when you get to that banjo place, the reason that you can feel all those little fibers is because they're protecting nerves. So you can rub on top of it and it'll be a really nice release, but don't go jabbing or digging into it. Because Julie, you are coming dangerously close to mobility WOD / CrossFit levels of muscle. It's amazing and gorgeous. So you're going to need to do a little bit more and dig a little bit deeper than the average person. But it's going to be a long time before I'm comfortable being like, you can do it all with a lacrosse ball, because you use your muscles so much differently than someone in a CrossFit or a powerlifting situation would. Right? They're only doing a very few set of reps, going for maximum weight and resistance each time that they do. We're keeping the same resistance for longer and longer and longer and longer and longer periods of time. So we have to be a little different in how we mobilize. Their muscles are going to get larger and tighter and junkier over time. Ours will as well. Our need to mobilize is considerably higher. But you know, bodybuilders generally don't want to do this because we're literally breaking down the muscle. It doesn't make you weaker, but it will make it. It'll put you at a bit of a disadvantage if you're trying to, say, deadlift 500 pounds, right? Like getting massages and breaking those muscles down. It's not. They need to mobilize, but they don't want to break it down so much that they no longer have muscle power. We're kind of coming close to that point where we mobilize to the point that, you know. There are trade-offs, but for endurance runners, that trade-off is worth it. For a lifter, the trade-off is not. So most people, if you're watching this and you're a serious hardcore like CrossFit or power lifter, this is probably not a tool you really want to get into unless you have one area that is super sore, and I can show you some other ways to use it. But for now, I'm kind of runners first in this one because everyone doing 3 days at the fair is a runner. So that's how I take care of this side of my shin. Just give it a little extra love. And you'll notice that extra love goes a long way with ankle range of motion. Even though we didn't really do anything to the ankle, we just facilitated any of the junkiness that could be getting down in here. The other issue I have with trail running shoes, and one of the reasons I'm not personally a huge fan of trail running, is that they're designed to protect your feet from uneven terrain, which means that shoe is a hell of a lot bigger, thicker, and firmer than I like on the bottom and on the top. Because when a shoe is firm and you tie it on the top, that The shoe's really going to come to right here. And if you press down on that area and then flex your foot like you're running, that literally impacts and impedes your range of motion. So I like maximum range of motion in my ankles when I run. It's really weird to me when I don't have that. And I want maximum flexion in the toes. So something like a Nike Free, it's not quite enough shoe for me. I like a little more bottom than that, a little more sole, and a little more stability than the Nike Free offers. But other than that, it's a pretty terrific shoe. You could roll it up and put it in your hand, and that's about how much flexibility I want in a running shoe all the time. So the soleus, if you're having Achilles tendinopathy of any sort, that tends to originate, not categorically, not always. Remember, I'm not a physical therapist. This is not medical advice. This is just experience from a coach and a runner. A lot of Achilles issues tend to start with the soleus that is too tight, overworked, and needs to be dry needled, which is going to happen if you're wearing a shoe that constricts your ankle's range of motion. I.e., if you're a trail runner, you're probably wearing these shoes and you probably have this dysfunction. It's worth it to try to get. Now, the soleus is really hard to get to. The soleus is protected by the gastroc, so you've got these two big muscles. You've got the big fat muscle that makes sure, that on a strong person it looks really nice and sharp and defined. And then you've got the soleus, which is a teeny tiny muscle, and its main job is to protect the Achilles insertion point into the gastroc. So the easiest way to mobilize it is to get it dry needled. And whenever I go see Alex Lanton when I'm in the middle of my training cycle, that's usually the first thing he does. He just lifts me over and dry needles my soleus, and he's like, now what? And it's a really terrific feeling. This is nowhere near as painful, because again, those pain receptors are kicking in and they're not going to let you go deep enough to do damage. Thank God for that. Don't try to fight them. Don't be like, I can go harder. You'll kind of reach that point where you're like, it's probably not smart to go further than this. Just listen and obey. So scrape that soleus area. Do it while rolling your foot around. If you have any trouble finding it, just grab their hold and then roll your ankle around, and you're like, oh, there's muscle 1. There's muscle 2. That's the soleus. That's what I'm going to grab. And now you've mobilized your entire calf. This does not replace what we do on the foam roller. You still got to hit the pipe, but it supplants it. You will go with the stick. You're never going to go as deep as you need to go. With this, you can. You can go quite a bit deeper because it's a lot more specific. So it's not unusual to see me sitting in front of my TV, just scraping the back, scraping the sides, scraping the front. So that's how I spend a lot of time with that. On both sides, especially down in here. Yay, ankle range of motion. The hotness on a Friday night in my bathroom, hiding from everybody. If you notice too, on the leg you haven't been using this on, if you put your fingers here on the outside and roll your ankle, you can feel all those little tendons moving. You can also feel, again, some nerves, so be super careful. So here in the front, you've got muscle, and then right there's a bone, and on either side of that bone is a nerve that you don't want to mess with. So we notice here on the sides, above the ankle, we just scrape, we don't dig. So if I had a no dig zone, it would be flex your foot, you can feel the bone. So it would be from this bone I would draw a line from there's a little pit right there next to my ankle. I would draw a line. Ooh, I could feel that. That was a nerve. I would draw a line up to right here and be like, okay, this part I scrape gently, and I come up here to dig. Does that make sense, Julie? Does that make sense, everybody? If I say something that doesn't make sense, you gotta tell me, because throwing medical terms at you or name, like, I hate it when people come to me and they're like, I have a pain in my tensor fascia lata, and I'm like, okay, tell me about what they're trying to do. Show me that they know the medical term for a muscle. It doesn't really tell me anything about what's going on with their body. So I'm trying to be real conscious not to throw out, super specific names for every muscle that we touch, because it doesn't really matter. There are lots of muscles. You're not a massage therapist, you're not a doctor, you're not a PT, you don't need to know. What you do need to know is like, oh wow, if you look down, there's a divot. Draw a line up from the divot. There are nerves in here. Nerves right there. We scrape over nerves, we don't dig. We dig into muscles, we can scrape, but we can also dig. My instructions are clear? Okay. Thank you. You're good. So, if you're not particularly ticklish, and I'm no fun. Just ask my husband. He is super ticklish, and I will live to tickle him. Or I just wait for his guard to go down, and I'm like, he can't stand it. It's the cutest thing. So, yeah, life with me is hell. When it comes to your feet, this is, you can go deep. I don't recommend pushing. Because, again, with the belly of a muscle, you can push pretty deep before you know you need to stop. The signals with your feet, when we go a little bit differently. When it comes to a muscle, I like to go hard and then back off as necessary. When it comes to the sole of my feet, I like to start gently and then get a little more firm over time. So again, with that nice little side, which is hard to see, Susan, but you'll know what I'm talking about when you have this in your hand and you can see where the points are. A rough scrape of the arch of the foot, of the side of the foot. And again, you'll know what to do. There are 7 free floating bones that make up the ball of your foot. We don't scrape up into it. We don't dig into it. We don't dig around it. The one thing you can do is flex your toe, press on the ball of your foot, and kind of dig in next to it. Nothing more than that. We can dig into this area nice and deeply where I've got that little mole on my foot. That's where all of that's the attachment point, generally speaking. I like to say that God, that mole is proof that God wanted me to be a coach. Yay! Too bad I didn't figure that out until I was old as fuck. But this is the attachment point for all of the major tendons and ligaments in your knees, in your calves, and that make your feet move, including plantar fascia. They all attach right there. So this is the point we dig into to mobilize. And if you can't see from that mole, it's about an inch above where my heel bone ends. So that area, we can dig in pretty deeply and then scrape all around it. And that feels really nice to just bend your toes back, scrape the arch of your foot, scrape right there under the ball of your foot, scrape on the inside. That is delicious. This is really terrific. And you can feel, again, this is the biggest connective tissue. One of the reasons we don't want to go crazy with it, we start gently and then we go deeper over time, is that you can feel plantar fascia right there. And there's a fat pad. You're going to bruise the fat pad. That's normal. A bruised fat pad is no big deal. That means you've been doing something. You've been doing your job, basically. You've been running and mobilizing. At the same time, we don't want to leave bruises down here. When you bruise your fat pad in the heel, in the sole of your foot, that shouldn't be visible to your eye, but you'll know you did it. So you'll feel, after all this scraping, you're going to feel like tingles, for lack of a better term, in the sole of your foot. Again, normal. Sharp pain that is like needles, sharp, stabbing, searing, or tearing, not normal. Stop whatever it is you're doing. But if you feel tingles, I say go for it. That feels nice. That feels nice right there. So we go around the ball of the foot. We go underneath the ball of the foot. We do not dig in. Under here, we don't do that. We just scrape, 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 scrape around it. And then while we mobilize it and hold it in place, we can dig next to it. And it feels really nice to dig into this area between the knuckles of your, like in your hand you have knuckles. Effectively what we're trying to do is get that area in between each knuckle. It's easier to see and feel in your hand. especially if you're like me and you don't ever get pedicures, so I've just got all kinds of callus on my feet. But yeah, it feels really nice to dig into in between each of the knuckles of your toes. Don't mess around with the heel itself too much. Again, from this angle, good things aren't necessarily likely to come from it. Scrape in here, dig in there. You can dig a little bit around your heel, but again, don't go crazy. And do not, under any circumstance, mess around in here. Do not scrape this part. Do not mobilize it. Rubbing it is about all you want to do. And that's a pretty good start with ankle and foot mobility. I know my feet feel really good right now. I can't recommend it highly enough. Do it whenever you have time or think about it. I mean, when you're at work, not saving women or doing strength, this is another great way to kill time, because I know you have so much of it, so very much of it. But it's really well worth doing. And Kate, Walton, if you're watching, I know anytime that you're sitting in a committee meeting or a budget hearing or anything having to do with like politics, there's nothing more awesome than kicking your heels off and scraping your feet, because that'll show them. I mean, it's not like you can wear your lipstick like the Joker, right? Did anyone like that in the mantra? I thought it was hilarious. I just had this picture of like a guy I used to work with decided he really wanted to be laid off, and he was going to put himself at the front of the line to be laid off, but he was one of our top producers. And like they did not want to get rid of him. So they just ignored everything they did until they couldn't anymore. Joker makeup did it. Joker makeup totally did it. They thought he'd lost his mind. It was amazing. I secretly wanted to just show up in a place where I didn't want to be wearing Joker makeup. But the hard part about being an adult is that anywhere I don't want to be, I just don't go. I've yet to be really in a position where it's like, I have to do this. I don't want to do this. I'm going to do something so outrageous. I'm going to scare everyone so that they never talk to me again, much less force me into this position. So, yeah, if you can wear Joker lipstick, or you can just bring a sex toy covered in grease and scrape your feet while people do math. Yay! Maybe we do need to go to church this weekend. That sounds like fun. The last thing I like to do, there are some trigger points in here that are kind of hard to get to. Julie, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, especially since you've been running a lot. We've been doing a lot to recruit your lats and to make sure that we're getting these, I just like to refer to them as armpit muscles, because there's a difference. The lats are in the back, but whenever we're doing things like the seated rows or the flies, the flies are trying to like give you some of that nice shoulder definition, but the reason that matters is because to bring that arm back, it's the shoulder muscle working in concert with the armpit muscles, and you need that to stay upright as you fatigue over the course of an ultra. Because when this fails and you're back and you see the runner start to hunch and lean forward, this is what's literally going to hold you up. So it's also really hard to mobilize. On a day like today, when my rotator cuff is ridiculously tight, it's just hard to get in there to dig into some of these muscles in between your ribs. And trying to press into it on the foam roller or the PVC pipe, that's just going to hurt, because this is a big, delicate, large trigger point. Ironic as it sounds, it's really easy to hit it without convulsing in pain with this, to scrape over it really nicely. Then you can go press your body against the roller, and you'll get more out of it than having your whole back just like freeze up so that you can press into this thing on the roller. Does that make sense? Because once you press it on the roller and your body freezes up, what that tension is protecting this area, and what we need to do is loosen all the tension in the area. So we do this first, it's going to make it easier when you get on the roller. So I mobilize. I will sit here and scrape, as you can see. just to give you an idea of like where I am. I'm a 38 AA. My boobs are tiny, but I'm big around, and it's from my back. So, I've got back tits. I've got to rub my back tits. That's basically what I'm doing. All around my shoulder girdle. And in here. Because you see your rotator cuff does kind of go all the way around. I like to scrape my shoulders and dig into my collarbone. That feels really nice. You can see what I'm getting. What is that? Feels amazing, yeah. This is why I laugh when people are like, I need the newest Garmin with vertical oscillation. I'm like, no, go buy some cheap ass shit and we can do magic tricks, motherfucker. No, you don't. If you want the new Garmin, go get the new Garmin. But just saying, for the price differential, for the upgrade between what you've got and where you need to go. Like, even if you can trade it in like a car, which you can't, but I get that you're going to sell it on Craigslist. So you sell your current one on Craigslist for $230. Turn around and buy the new one for $500. That is a differential of what? $260 plus tax, right? For $260, we could get a whole bunch of really cool shit. And it starts with this. But my 3 days at the fair, people are getting it for free. Merry Christmas to you. Yay. Because maybe it doesn't look sexy, but it feels amazing. So that's it for tonight. That's mostly, that, and I'm gonna go dig in here some more. That feels really good. Feels really good, actually. Oh. You don't know how tense you are till you start doing this, and you're like, oh, I've needed that all day long. Do you feel coached and loved? Because you are, and you're winning at life. I'm going to go record a mantra. And if anybody has any mantra requests, do please send them my way. All the ones that I've seen lately have been about toxic work situations and a few for super depressing things, which, again, I don't mind doing. I will get it right into depressing. I got no problem with that, because sometimes you just got to yay the pain away, even if it's fake. And it's not a fake until you make it sort of thing. That idea weirds me out. You need to find some legitimate yay to hold on to until you can appreciate all the other yays that you say. If that makes any sense. That's sort of where I'm at. And there should be nothing fake about it. It's genuinely just looking for it. When we talk about finding the silver lining, it's that thing, like, this terrible thing happened, but, I lost my dad, but at least I have an appreciation for my mom. Like, that's some bullshit. That's clinging. And maybe that's true, but, like, you could have appreciated your mom without losing your dad, It's like, we could have gotten here other ways. Why do we have to take the most painful road? So trying to find the yay is not trying to, like, negate your feelings or negate all the shit in a situation. You're leaning into the shit, and you're being guided kind of through it, like that little fish in Finding Dory. They find at the bottom of the ocean. It's like, oh my God, and they follow the light. That's really kind of what we're trying to do with your emotions. We're just trying to find the one little light in the darkness and swim to clearer water. So I'm good at that after doing it for 20 years. I would love to help you do it too. If you guys have any ideas for mantras or any requests, email them to coachmkfleming@gmail.com. All one word, coachmkfleming@gmail.com. And I would love to make a mantra for you. And if you haven't heard my mantra yet, the Morning Mantra with Coach MK is on iTunes, Podbean, Overcast, Google I'm on like 12 different platforms now, so anywhere you find your podcast, you can probably find the Morning Mantra with Coach MK. Yay, yay, yay. Anywho, you're coached, you're loved, you're winning at life. I'm going to go make a mantra. I think tomorrow's mantra is going to be gracious AF. So, my most recent mantra request, the one that I'm excited about, is like, I said it was shaming to live in the should, and they were really tired of hearing others especially some toxic people at work, talk to them about how, like, you should be grateful. And I'm like, I love it when people say that crazy shit to me. I can make them eat those words. 420 blackbirds baked in a pie. I will bake that pie, motherfucker, and come at you with it. So, yes, we're going to have Gracious as Fuck coming up in the morning mantra, but between then and tomorrow, I'll probably see you guys when I meet my runners to make them do a little ass fire and damnation first thing in the morning. Kim, I have not forgotten about you. I've just not been able to get into your space big enough where I can show you all these moves. So we're going to do ass fire and damnation tomorrow with my runners, and you can get more strength. But I'll tell you this, if you don't think the desk series is challenging, you're probably not squatting low enough. It's a very common mistake. Either way, I'll see you guys later. Thank you for staring at my bathroom. Yay! I know you can't wait to do it again.